Hey guys, JT Khan here. Hope everyone is doing well. I am completely and utterly excited to jump into Kerbal Space Program. It's the moment we've pretty much been waiting for in the last couple episodes. We are going to launch one of these adorable little Kerbals right up into space. We got the moon coming up in the background there. I love that shot. It's my favorite. The Kerbal's floating in front of us, and I think we're ready to go. Let's jump into this right away. The Jebediah Kerman Space Center. There we go. One quick thing while we were gone, as I promised during the break, I did launch our communication satellites. I was experimenting a little bit because I don't have a lot of experience in this, but I was trying to launch 4 satellites fairly somewhat of an equidistance apart. And I didn't really get that. As you can see, some of the orbits are a little bit off, which means that some are going to move slower, some are going to move faster. But the result is we've got 4 satellites up. They're communication satellites. The idea being is they will be within line of sight of each other at all times, which will allow the test center to communicate with other satellites and with the Kerbals when they're up there. That's completely a fictional thing. That's not something that's actually implemented in the game right now, although there is a mod that will allow you to control ships and probes and whatnot within great distances by setting up networks that use a communication system. And we're going to check that out pretty soon. So let's jump right into building our rocket. I'm going to call this the... I'll figure out what we'll call it here in a second. But for the first time instead of choosing one of these unmanned probes, we are going to shoot for this Command Pod Mark 1. It's lighter, it's smaller, it only carries 1, so if something should go disastrously wrong, we're still going to have Kerbals in reserve that can continue the quest for space. So there's our pod there. First thing we're going to want to make sure that we do during one of these manned missions that we haven't had to before is to add a parachute. We're going to use the Mark 16 parachute. We're going to put that right on top there, and there's our basic command pod right there. There are mods out right now because, as I had mentioned in other episodes, they don't have re-entry modeling yet, and they will here at some point. But there are mods where you can attach heat shields at the bottom that kind of makes it a little bit more realistic. But I did just catch the developer live stream, which they have every Monday. You should definitely check it out. But they showed off some of the re-entry effects that they are working on that hopefully will make it the next update with any luck. But they look amazing, and it's going to completely add a whole new dimension to this. Anyway, so there's our command pod. As always, we're going to need to drop in where are you? Yeah. A decoupler, so we can detach the orbital stage from it so it descends by itself. And just like last time, we're going to put an SAS system in there. We're going to put an RCS fuel tank, along with RCS thrusters. There we go. And really, eventually I think I'm going to try experimenting a bit more with some different designs, but right now it's going to be pretty similar to some of the stuff we've done before. One thing I wanted to point out is that in these smaller engines we have, there's 2 different types. They've got a little bit of different thrust. One you'll notice is thrust vectoring, which means that the nozzle turns to help turn the ship. This one does not have that. It just shoots straight ahead. So we're going to use that for the upper stage because we don't really need Our RCS thrusters are going to help us turn. We don't really need thrust vectoring, so we're going to drop that in there. And that is our upper stage. And like before, we are going to drop this decoupler in, put an adapter in, and put one of these orange fuel tanks. I've tried a couple of different designs, and I tell you, they got a little crazy. I added 3 or 4 of the smaller, these FL T800 fuel tanks. I ended up putting like 3 or 4 in a row, and there was so much weight and fuel it wouldn't take off. So I decided, for the sake of simplicity at this point, that we would just use this guy with the mainsail liquid engine, just to get us into orbit a little faster. So there we go. We're going to add separatrons up here and tilt it just a bit to the side so it spins. That way, it's this first stage will separate pretty quickly from our upper stage. And I think it's pretty simple. For our first trip, we don't want to get too complicated. So I think we'll do that. We'll drop these guys right there. And there we go. I think we will name this ship the Kermcury 1. Because it sounds silly, and instead of sounding official, I want to sound silly tonight. So there we go. I think we're pretty much set. We're going to check our staging, which I'm glad we did, because these separatrons right now would go off with this main engine. So we need to make sure we slip it up to the next stage so it goes off with the decoupler there. But otherwise, I think we're good to go. We should just we're going to save this ship, and let's do it. Let's just go. Alright, we are getting ready to take off here. We have Hendorf Kerman here in the corner there. One thing I want to point out real quick, because I may forget when stuff gets kind of crazy, but if you click the IVA button or you click the C button, you will actually get into his cockpit and check out what he's doing. Right now he's got some... he's strapped in. It looks like he's ready to go, and really you could almost fly this in real time in here if you were really brave, of which I am not. So we're going to do it from out here. And the sun is setting on our space center, so let's get this going. I'm going to fire up our stabilizer. I'm going to bring our thrust all the way up, and just like before, we're using this mainsail engine. So it's going to heat up quickly, so we're going to have to drop that thrust. And we also want to drop it to make the G-forces stay, you know, pretty close within the green range, because we do actually have living Kerbals on board now. So we are all set to go. And final countdown. In 3, 2, 1, launch. And we're up. A little bit wobbly. You see the thrust vectoring of that engine kicking in where it's tilting to compensate. We've got our heat rising, so we're going to drop our thrust down. And as you can see, we're keeping that G-force right in that green area. Unlike Jebediah Kerman, this guy is freaking out. He is absolutely freaking out. You can see him in the corner there. Still heating up a little bit, so we're going to drop this. We're coming up on 5 kilometers. And at 10 o'clock, or 10 kilometers, we're going to start our gravity's turn again. 8 kilometers. And go ahead and activate RCS thrusters and start that turn. Here we go, tilting over. Alright, locking in the stabilizer. Got our map ready, and I think we're going to keep it as close as we can to drop this down just a tad bit more. We're going to keep this to about 100 kilometers if at all possible. We've got our main engine cutting off here. There it goes. We're going to disengage it. See those separatrons kicking in? Got a little bit longer to go, so we will fire up that next engine. Going right up just a little bit over 100 because it'll drop just a little bit since we're still in the atmosphere. But we've got main engine cut off. We're leaving that other stage far behind us. And we are flying into the night. Alright, we have got just over 2 minutes to set up this circularization burn. So we're going to click right here as before. We're going to add a maneuver. And we're going to drag this out until we have the orbit we want. "100 kilometers by 107. I can live with that. I'm going to bring our nav ball up there. And we're going to set up our burn. We're going to get into the right attitude. Of course, the blue marker there is the attitude we're going to be facing when we want to burn. We'll lock that in there. Hendorf Kerman, still freaking out. I hope they attached a couple of extra astronaut or Kerbolnaut diapers to that guy, because he does not look happy at all. I'm actually really surprised we didn't get Jeb Kerbin in there, being the first flight, but that's alright. Alright, this indicates we're going to have about a 25-second burn, so I'm going to actually shoot for halfway to the node. So at 13 seconds, I'm going to fire these rockets up. It gives us a chance to spool up because it doesn't fire at full thrust right off the bat. There we go, we're burning off just over 1,000 meters a second worth of delta V, or our target velocity. I'm going to stand by ready for the cutoff as soon as we get there. Almost there. 2, 1, and cutoff. Actually, I'm going to go just a bit farther. 102 by 110. Not too terribly bad. We'll take it. And so, for the first time, we have got a Kerbolnaut in a stable orbit. Nothing major happened. I was going to do a couple of maneuvers to show you how to bring down the orbit, but we don't have a whole lot of fuel left, so I don't think I'm going to mess around. So we end up getting Hendorf stuck in space. He looks like he has calmed down just a little bit. I'm not sure if that's his "I'm going to throw up" face, or he's just checking things out. It is dark in his cockpit. You can see the stars. Alright, let's skip ahead a little bit until we get to the sunrise, and we'll get to our next task. Alright, we are coming up to Kerbin sunrise there, which I think still looks amazing. And what we're going to do is face us forward, because I always like to face forward. Otherwise it just seems backwards. And we're just going to kind of come into this attitude here. And kick on the stabilizer. And go forward just a little bit more until we're in a little better daylight. That works. And so now, our first major checklist of this flight is to do an EVA, which means that Hendorf, who is freaking out again, is going to freak out more, because he's going to open the hatch and he's going to leave his capsule and float around in space. So what we're going to want to do is click on the crew hatch. It's going to list our Kerbonauts here. Right now Hendorf is the only one. And we are going to do an EVA. Here he goes. There he is. Right now he's hanging onto a ladder. There's a short ladder there. And there are longer ladders you can put on if you want to like land the pod on a surface. But right now he's just gonna let go and float a little bit. If you can see on the back of his pack, he's got the little controls there. So if you hit R, like you're activating your RCS thrusters, he's going to grab those and float right side up. per se, since there's no real right side up in space. He's basically facing up from the surface. So now we can just kind of float around a little bit. The Q and the WSAD counts for going forward, back, left, and right. The Q and E will actually spin us around if we want. But one thing to note is when you use your controls, it's going to be tailored to whichever direction your camera's facing. So right now, if facing this way, if I was to go forward, you can see it turns them around, and now my controls are lined up that way. I'm going to switch on his helmet lights there so you can get a little better view of the ship. So naturally speaking, he's going to want to you can use your shift and control to actually go up and down, and I think what he's going to want to do is just kind of look the ship over, see how it did in the craft, because he is the first Kerbin to head out into the unknown. So he's going to want to check especially his parachute, make sure everything's okay. We know they're working okay, but he's going to look over the RCS thrusters, see how they're holding up, see how the general look of the ship is doing there. And at any time you can click on him and actually get a readout of how much fuel is left in his pack. There's plenty there, so we don't really have to worry about it. But we don't really want to float too far away because it's kind of having a rough go as it is. So yeah, if we turn over here, we hit the left and right, he's going to spin around our orientation, and it's going to work like that. So yeah, there he is, floating above the planet, and probably hating every single minute of it. So if we want to head back in, which we probably do, because probably about to be sick, we'll just get up close to the capsule again, kind of maneuver our way up there. Hit F to grab. He's grabbed onto that ladder again, so he's just going to crawl up towards the hatch. We'll hit F to board, and he's inside. And as you can see, he is utterly freaking out. I would feel bad for him for the fact that the guy is in space right now. I mean, how awesome would that be? And I'm just going to orientate us a little bit. So we're going to check out the planet here, see how things are going. Right now, we've only been in space for 22 minutes, so our half of the planet is dark. So I'm going to time skip a bit until the sun starts coming up. He is going to be doing some zero-G experiments or microgravity experiments. He's going to be getting put through the paces while he's up here for a few hours, and then we'll work on getting him back down, hopefully safely. So see you in a minute. Okay, so in my brilliance, I forgot that you can't time skip very much when you're below 120,000 meters or 120 kilometers. So, thankfully, I was able to edit that big chunk of time out while I orbited around, waiting for the sun to come up. 3 hours and 12 minutes have passed for our brave or not so brave Kerbolnaut, and he's in his last orbit. The sun has come up over the Space Center, so we're gonna get this going. So they're unlike Orbiter, which is another space simulator I played, where you had programs that you could calculate when you needed to burn and where, etc. There's no such thing for a Kerbal Space Program right now, so you really have to wing it. And sad thing is, typically when I wing it, things don't go so well. So it's kind of a trial and error kind of thing as far as when and where you burn and how much. But we're going to give it a shot anyway. Basically, I'm going to set a node up right about you know what I'm going to say here. Typically speaking, you don't need as much of an arc when you're in a capsule than, say, when you're in the space shuttle, because of the way that you have to re-enter, which drags out a lot more. You have to come in at a lot shallower of an angle because you're using the atmosphere to slow you down over a greater distance. So you would burn, in orbit at least, we would burn, say, 180 degrees from the spaceport, and then that would give us a real shallow trajectory and allow us to slow down the right spot. In capsules, you don't really have to do that. You can use, like, the Apollo or the Gemini Mercury capsules would have a shorter distance and a steeper angle they could come in. So I'm going to come in a little bit closer than I normally would. But we're going to drag our retrograde marker in until we get right about, I'm going to say, right about in here. And that gives us a burn in about 20.5 minutes in a retrograde direction. So we slow down, so our orbit drops, and we're going to meet the atmosphere. When we do that, the drag from the atmosphere is going to slow us down and bring us to the surface, hopefully in one piece. Typically, what would happen is we got, as we're faster and going into the thicker parts of the atmosphere, we would heat up, and our heat shield would absorb that heat, and we'd get plasma around our craft, which looks like a big ball of fire, basically. But that's not implemented yet, so we don't really have to worry about consequences of that at this point. But in the interest of Kerbal kind, we're going to try to keep it as safe as we can for him. The other issue we have with setting up nodes this far in advance is the planet is rotating. So as you can see already, our projected down point is shifting. Also, what's going to happen is when we do start slowing down in the atmosphere, this arc is going to constrict as we slow down. But we'll worry about that in a little bit. So let's skip ahead a bit more until we get closer. We'll kind of reevaluate our burn, and we'll go from there. Alright, we have officially hit entry interface, which means that we are now making contact with the upper atmosphere. It still shows our orbital speed is picking up because we're getting closer to the planet, and so we pick up speed. And we haven't hit enough of the atmosphere to really start collecting those drag effects. But it will pretty soon. Our altitude is up here, and underneath it is basically a measure of the atmospheric pressure. We are right now flying directly over the Space Center. Hey guys. And I'm going to roll us around a bit so that he can see his friends. There we go. And that's the view he's got right now. So, as you can see, the instruments in the IVA mode work. You can see the altimeter there. You can see the vertical speed, the heading, the directional ball, and the atmosphere gauge is increasing as we get closer to. So, there's the spaceport. Hey guys. So we are still we're sinking. We've overshot it, which I kind of figured we would. I'm curious to see how far into the ocean we actually end up going. I have yet to, in my few times playing, be able to target this coastal area right there. So we are now starting to slow down. We're hitting that thicker part of the atmosphere at about 35, 40,000 kilometers. And Hendorf is looking a little worried. Somebody told him that reentry effects were not modeled yet. We are going a bit farther than I thought we would. As you can see, since we're slowing down, our orbital path is constricting quite a bit. Our apoapsis is shrinking quite a bit. We're down to 1,600 meters a second surface speed, so we're really hitting that thickest part of the atmosphere. So we are slowing down quite a bit. I don't usually like to hit the parachute until we get below about 300 meters a second. I don't know what the actual, I should check it out, but I don't know what the actual speed is at which it's totally safe. I have hit it before where the parachute has broken off because I was going too fast. So I always like to be just safer than sorry here. So we are at 13,000 meters and we are slowing down quite a bit. So it's almost time to hit our parachute. Splash down right in the middle of the ocean. .400 meters a second, 10,000 meters. We're in the thickest part of the atmosphere now, so we're really going to slow down. We're passing 300 meters a second, so I'm going to go ahead and hit our chute with the space key again to stage it. There it goes. It partially comes out, so it's kind of in a drogue chute mode. So it's more about really slowing us down and stabilizing us at this point. We're at 6,500 meters. Now, we don't really technically have to do anything more, except let it fall. At 500 meters, this chute is going to open all the way and slow us down to just about over 6 meters a second falling, or in descent. That is 500 meters above the surface, so I know I've landed in the mountains before and it's gone open at like 1,800 meters. So it's not wise to time skip too terribly much at this point. You can go 2 times if you want to, but we'll pick it up just a tad until we get pretty close to 500 meters. There we go, it opens up. We've got a 6.3 meter a second descent. Everything seems to be stable. Hendorf is... he may have thrown up in his mouth just a little bit there at that. There is a... I've noticed even with the Jebediah Kerman, when that chute opens, that G force rating will shoot all the way up towards the red. So it does rack him just a little bit. But we're at 300 meters. accelerate just a little bit. In theory, hopefully the Kerbal Navy can get out here and get Hendorf. I'm hoping. He's not floating. He may have to float out there a little bit by himself, but it's buoyant. He's got an air supply. He'll be okay. Back down to 1 time. We're down at 50 meters. And we have touchdown. Hendorf Kerman is the first Kerbal to launch in a rocket, orbit the planet, do an EVA, and return safely. So now everything's really opening up for us. We know we can do it. We know they can come back and survive. So now we need a plan of action. We need to decide what we're gonna do next. I do believe this will be my last, or at least one of the last, stock episodes that I'll do. I think the next episode we're gonna launch a mapping satellite into orbit and start mapping the surface of Kerbin using the ISA MapSat mod. So that'll be our first kind of mod spotlight a little bit. That'll work into the storyline of our developing space center. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it inspires you a bit to get out there and shoot for the stars. And I'll catch you next time. Be well. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you will. Definitely leave some comments and correct me when I'm stumbling and don't have my facts right. That would be fantastic. If you want to suggest other mods or even missions to undertake, I'll be more happy to give it a try. So take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.